Okay, so I have a preference for a certain type of frame. You might have another preference. Like you might like to use old frames. A lot of people like to make frames out of barn board. I like these thin black woods. In fact, I was at a gallery the other night and I was having a show in Halifax, and a woman came up to me and she said, "Oh, I love this rug. It's so beautiful, but that frame does nothing for it." And I'm thinking, "Really? You don't like it?" And she said, "No, it does nothing for it. Do you think it does anything for it?" And I said, "Well, I like it, but that's my taste." But it was just so funny because I thought it did a lot for the work, because I like a frame that makes the work stand out, right? That's what I like. She said, I'd go for, she named some kind of South American wood. And she said, and I would go for that and, make it a more ornate frame. And that would be perfect for her. Everybody has different tastes. I like the thin black line. It's lovely for me. And if I have a lighter rug, I'll sometimes make it in the thin white line, like this one here. And that really looks good to me. I like it because it modernizes the rug, right? To me, this little quarter of or an eighth of an inch, it just modernizes the rug and it makes it all about the rug. But I just found that really funny because I never really thought, and if someone was buying, it was a really large piece. And if someone was deciding to buy that piece, I totally get why they would like to make the frame different. And a framing can really enhance a piece of work in different ways. Sometimes I think that I'd like to use like really ornate, those old ornate gold frames, the chalky ones, and put some rugs in there. But whenever I've sort of I've never found the right rug for it, but I'm sure it's out there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unframe this. So a lot of times people order our frames, and we have a local carpenter that makes them. They're all handmade. And they always say, "Oh, it's about a half an inch smaller because they look at this side." So we started putting front. So this is what our frames look like. And we have a piece of wood paneling in them that's nice and thick that can hold our staples. And I'm just going to unframe one for you now so you can see. Let me just lift it out. And the reason why, oh, that's in there really good. The reason why I like to use a staple gun is because I can lift it out and change it. So say if I glued this in, you can put white glue all over this, pop it in, glue it in. If I did that, then when I wanted to change the frame, or if I wanted to paint the frame, or if I wanted to, add a new color to the rug, then I wouldn't be able to lift it out. So this is how we bind our rugs when we're framing them. And it looks a little plain and rough. We don't, normally when I'm binding a rug, I would turn it under twice so that there were no raw edges. I don't do that anymore because I frame most of my rugs and I want my rugs to lay flat. So if I turn in the edges, then this is going to be 4 layers of fabric and thicker. So I don't want the corners to bulk. So Norma just takes them and she serges the edges, or does a zigzag stitch, and then she hand sews it. And then we just take our rug and we pop it right on top of here like that. And I hook loose enough that I'm able to open up my stitches. And I just take the staple gun, and you have to have some strength for this. So one of the people who work in the studio with me often helps me with this. And so there's a loose staple from before. See how I opened it up right there? So now I'm going to just go like that. I don't want the staples. I don't want the staples to show, so I just hide them in here. So did you hear my little, it's hard work. I'm telling you, framing these rugs is not that easy. So that's why some people do go to glue. And if you, so like, let's looky here. One of them sort of, you can see the staple, so I had to pull the wool out around it. And there it is. It's all framed up and it's very simple. So I've taken my frame that I had custom made. I ordered them 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 because my rug is 8 by 8. And I have different profiles that I can use for frames, and I'll show you some out front after. But if I wanted a wider frame, I order profile number 2. If I wanted a really wide profile, like a flat like that, it's hard to explain, but then the edge of my frame would look like this, and I'll show you one that looks like that. Only once did I ever use this profile number 4, which gave me like a deep shadow box look, but mostly this is the profile that I use. So I have a narrow one, a wider one, a wider one, and a wider one with a flat base, just to give you an idea. Okay, so you can work with a local carpenter if you want and have them make it, or you can measure your frame and have us make it. These ones get very expensive, so I only do those on the rare occasion. So again, I'm just going to remind you, this is 8 1/4 by 8 1/4. And I'm going to put an 8 by 8 rug in it, and it'll fit in perfectly. So give yourself a little space. So let's have a little studio tour and have a look at some of these rugs that are framed around here. So I just finished this rug last week with all the gold and the red poppies. And this one was one I made during our retreat this winter, and a woman just hanging out in a silk white shirt. This is unframed. So sometimes if you want to, you can, I think a rug hanging just like this looks really good. And you don't have to frame your rugs. That's an important thing to remember. Not everything needs a frame. That you can just hang your work by putting mat pins in through it. And, or, you know, just a fine row of nails, and you can lay your binding over the nails. Very simple. Here, this is Driving Through Maine, right here, and I just love this rug, and to me, these all benefit from a black frame, and black is kind of a neutral. There are times like this one here where I think a red frame would be really pretty, and I'm considering that. Like, you could paint these frames any color, and then the frames could become more, you know, like what would this look like with a wine frame, the color of her jacket. I think it would look good. It's not what I choose to do. I like a consistent color that works with, you know, works with everything. And I like how then the work hangs together better. And, but there are options. So I want to encourage you in that way to play with the options. So that's the story of my framing. These are the 3 pieces that just got framed just recently. And I'm not crazy about this little piece, but you know, it looks a lot better framed than it did just as a little rug. So I think framing elevates our rugs and sort of takes them off the floor and onto the wall. So thank you for watching. I'm going to take you out to the other room in the next video, and we can look at some frame options out there. So I'll see you in a bit.